goal to solve Earth's biggest challenges. From climate action to quality education, we're tackling all 17 Sustainable Development Goals reassembled as 10. We embody sustainability, unity, and empathy. Our character and reliability shine as beacons of hope. As role models for future generations, we're building a world where wisdom and consciousness rise, harmonizing life with nature and all species. Join us. Together, let's create a balanced, sustainable future for all.
Hello everyone. Many apologies for those of you who are waiting for so long, and we are now on another link. So I hope that you could find our new link for streaming, and now we are live. I would want some confirmation because I can't see the views yet from LinkedIn, and I would love to see that. And in the meantime, I would love my team also to share the new link once it's confirm that we are live on LinkedIn, because I would love to check. We had a great start already before with Christopher, and then we found out that we are not live streaming on LinkedIn. And yes, that's unfortunate for our first live video streaming, but we hope we can solve this. And all right, so we are on LinkedIn. I will start over. We are so happy to have such a unique experience today, and I am very aware that some of you are lost for now, and you will see the restream probably on LinkedIn or on the other channels, and we lost 23 minutes from our streaming. So I will go again by saying, for all of you who are here regulars and coming back to all of our events, this wants to be a celebration where we can also see each other live, and you can also come on stage later on, even if we lost a little bit of precious time today. Tech Leadership Lab is Tech for Good, led by good hearts, and this is the massively transformative purpose. And the long version is basically uniting visionary and good-hearted tech leaders to solve Earth's biggest problems and create a better future for all. And this is very important because it's not just about the means and the skills and the power and the money and the influence. It's about the good heart, the character. Even that you stay here waiting for us, knowing that we have technical difficulties and we are not on LinkedIn, and we should, and you know that I'm punctual and I usually do everything I say I do, and you are here with us here. I appreciate you so much, because this means that you are connected with us by heart and you truly want to create a better world, because this is a tough thing. It's a tough mission, a long-term mission where we need to be united. Those people who consider long-term, who consider the future generations, that they have the right to enjoy a beautiful earth and resources as we had, and even provide them better. And when we leave, they should have a possibility to nurture and grow and have an amazing life to build further and evolve. And for this reason, today's guest who we have here, it's such an amazing person who built something huge with GatherVerse. It was not the main intention, he will tell us, but I'm so happy to have Christopher Lafayette, who basically is a good human who wants the best for humanity, who wants to connect technology and humanity, and who is in front of Tech Leadership Lab with tons of things already we can just learn from. I'm so happy to have you here with us, Christopher.
Well, Cristina, certainly I want to say thank you for this gracious invitation and the opportunity to be able to spend time with all of you today with Tech Leadership Lab. At such an occasion where a platform like this, in these particular times of accelerated fashion, of emerging technologies, that we are afforded the opportunity to even have technical difficulties, where we could be in such a dire strait, in such a bad situation, to where we don't even have the connectivity for us to be able to bond together. And so I'm just reminded, even in times of technical difficulties, I'm grateful to even have the opportunity to have a technical difficulty, because some people do not have any type of technology to be able to connect at all. And they are severely disconnected from conversations and fruitful platforms such as the ones that you have put together. So I'm really appreciated to be here with your leadership and the opportunity to be able to express to everyone that is part of this community to human centricity. And I certainly hope that the audience that's with us today is keeping safe, happy, and healthy.
This is such an important message, Christopher, because if something like this happens, and always happens in leadership, and if you grow something huge, then problems like this will be bigger. Now we just had technical difficulties. It's so little compared to what other people are going through on this earth and in different regions and different parts of the world. I'm glad to see Danielle here, and I forgot to mention, we cannot see who is live with us today, but I can see the comments and your names there. And so it will be a different format, because this time we can interact directly and you can just ask questions or share anything you might want to hear. And that's such a blessing. And you might also come live with us later on. Christopher, please tell us, how did you start GatherVerse? Because basically you need to get to a place where you want to do more than the general population. And I'm sure you had that kind of moment that compiled through different moments from your life. And I would love to hear the story.
Well, GatherVerse came about as a need and a desire. When I looked at the landscape of the metaverse, if you will, and took in consideration of rules-based guide directional processes that were being put in place towards the approach to the metaverse as a virtual ecosystem of interaction and communication, we often take technology to be able to define the approach to technology, but rarely do we take the humane approach to be able to define the necessary steps and the progressive steps to emerging technologies, whether that's through adaptation, adoption, or even acceleration in terms of its usage and in terms of what it means and what it translates ultimately to sustainable human betterment. And in 2021, I came out with what's now the 8 standards, but the 7 standards of the metaverse, dealing with the humanity first approach to technology, of accessibility and education, considering the importance of community development and equality and safety and privacy and wellness, which now we have with our 8th standard, which is ethics. And taking in consideration of the approach to this, I wanted to create an event, a one-off event. GatherVerse was never meant to be the platform that it's become today globally. It was just a one-off event and never had the intention of becoming a brand. And there's a thing that I'm used to hearing, that if you listen to your audience, they'll tell you how they want to be sold. And we launched GatherVerse, and we just wanted it to be a one-off event where maybe we'd have 20 speakers that would express on these things that we talk about that have everything to do with the 8 standards approach to the metaverse itself and emerging technologies. And at the same time, we thought that maybe we would have about 400 attendees. Our first event brought us over 10,000 attendees with collaboration for platforms such as Augmented World Expo, AWE, Meta, Linux Foundation, Hewlett Packard, HP, if you will, and several other different organizations, whether that's Immersive in Europe and our good dear friends in Europe, and so many other different platforms that came together, and people from around the world that said, listen, we advocate and we stand for this platform. And after that, we realized that we cannot afford to take our foot off the gas and that we must move forward. And even while building out this first event, it turned out being and becoming a brand. And we knew that we had to make sure that this brand remained highly accessible. And we had to make sure that we were staying so focused on part of our mission, which is democratizing access and to be able to enable and to unlock so many different voices that were out there of people that you never heard, that you never knew existed, but she or he are doing incredible work when it comes to the level and the intersection of emerging technologies and human betterment. And we wanted to make sure that we amplified their voices and that you knew who are the people behind the products that are building come what may, whether that's from corporate, public sector, or even the startup sector. So cross-sector, we've had people from the White House, We've had people that you've never heard of that are hacking and building and making and coding in garages. And we've had such a turnout with now over 18 events. And we're on the heels of our next second annual summit for our She Summit, which we now have almost about 50 speakers, women leaders from around the world that have stepped up to want to be able to speak at this platform, which to this day is free, where we have world-class, first-class speakers, and at the same time, people that aren't used to being speakers who do have a voice to say, who do have something to express. And we've made it free because many people cannot afford to pay $500 to $1,000 plus a ticket, which I don't take away from events that do that, but they cannot afford to be able to pay their rent. And they should not be held back with good, useful information at a time where generative pre-trained transformers and AI has served as a intermediary guide and an informational delivery post for so many people to get their information, knowing that AI is still highly subject to misinformation, disinformation, and the threat of the ecosystem of information, but so is human expression as well. But we wanted to make sure that the people that we do have speak are speaking with the utmost integrity and delivering based on their experience as a professional. So we don't have to go through Chat GPT. We can certainly afford to this day be able to communicate through human GPT.
Human GPT, I love that. What do you think? Because your message went very broad and you attracted so many people around your events and what you're basically want to prevail in our world. What do you think it was the main part of the message, or what attracted so many people to come your way and be part of what you're building?
Less technology and more humanity. It's real simple, everyone. It's real simple. And if we can't see the writing on the wall, we should see it. For years and decades, we have been in a progressive growth phase when it comes to the scalability of technology itself and emerging technologies. These technologies that we see arising and arriving today, they aren't new. They're just emerging within this great eco-habitat system. And we've gone from an ideology phase, we've gone through a conceptual phase, if you will, to a hardware development phase. And going from a hardware development phase, we've gone to a software development phase. But we must ask ourselves, from why have we been ideating and building hardware and software for what and for whom, which leads us to the next natural progressive step, which is humanity. For whom we've been building hardware, for whom we've been building software, and ideating conceptually on what it is that technology could be and for what use case of a practical benefit beyond the theater of war. For what practical benefit can we use these technologies for social sustainability and human betterment? And so the idea that somebody comes out with a platform that's not contrarian to technology itself, me as an emergent technologist, but it's complementary as to see a forward way for why we are building technology beyond the chasms of just making the world a better place. Because that is what a lot of people and technologists say, oh, we're building this startup to make the world a better place. We're building this to make the world a better place. But what does that look like when it comes to human values? Because human values aren't aligned. They're not synced. They're not colloquial. And so when you say to make the world a better place, and she says to make a world a better place, what does that mean beyond this abstract state, this chaotic state, really, to be able to have those words subjected to whoever's listening? What does that mean at the end of the day when we talk about making the world a better place through our technology? And so what I wanted to do is take something that was abstract and make this concrete and understanding to simplify it and saying, listen, our technology that we're building today can never be as great as it can be until we take into account of accessibility, education, community development, safety, privacy, wellness, and ethics. It will never be as great as it can be until everyone has the opportunity, cross-cultural communication, transmetropolitan, cross-continental, So everyone has the opportunity to be able to contribute and build to it. We are as guilty as anyone else here in Silicon Valley for thinking that technology has arisen when it comes to technical development of a foundation that's been laid. Because we have erred in our forecasts, extrapolating the data and putting it on a curve. We have erred in the forecast and the trajectory and thinking that we've established something that is so rudimentary and so finite in its scope and its existence that even though we are generating revenue and capital and profit from these platforms that we're putting out, we still haven't had the majority of humanity contribute to the overall development of these emerging technologies. And on a amorphous scale, we don't know what it is to become and what as it should become, if you will, according to how we take applied science and make it into a product for the specific use case of human betterment. So at the end of the day, we need to unlock more voices. We need to give more access to more people to express and define from where they're from and where they're at, what emerging technologies mean to them, what it means for them on a local level, and to be able to have even a monicum level of appreciation for what that means on a local level so that we can take from them in a mutually shared world environment here on this single planet that we all share together so that we can take those ingredients to make a bigger and better pie for everyone to be able to eat on.
What you're saying is basically that we lost ourselves and we lost our focus and vision about what's important for humanity, or we don't see the forest because of the trees anymore, right? And because technology is evolving so fast. Last week, for example, we discussed this from a human wisdom innovation stand of view, that we didn't innovate human wisdom for 5,000 years, and technology is so fast and we just want to compete with it. Or we started, at least the first steps I recall when we started to have technology helping us, we wanted to compete with it instead of enabling us to become more. Because if now we are shifting a little bit the skill sets, that what we are needing for the future, what we have is creativity. With everything unleashed in the world, creativity and innovation, now it's open for everyone to reach out and just take a bite of it and build up something. But for whom? And here comes your question. For whom? If we don't know anymore where we are, we lost our roots, our connections, our needs as human beings. I was saying, when the first tech came in smart houses, you want a fridge to be more empathic as you, because it can just act like a human who reaches you when you come home at night. How are you? Do you want some milk? And did you have a good day? Things that we don't ask between each other anymore. Things that technology can also replace by simulating empathy. So this is an important thing to discuss, because if it looks alike enough for our hungry needs that are not met, we can go sideways and look for pleasure and look for things to be met from the AI, and that can go wrong. But now we have that kind of time where we can just sit down and talk. And what you said, okay, so how can we take emerging technologies into account? How can we enable that to serve us, the humanity, the good parts of being human and being part of such a beautiful planet, right? And so my next question would be to you, if you could have one decision to make, a very impactful decision for our world to move forward, and where everyone should focus on the most starting today, what would you decide for us all?
I think the biggest and that's a great question, Cristina. The more and more we become dependent on and using emerging technologies, the less human of the touch that will exist. Most people at this very moment, as we yet sit here and have this extremely important discussion, they do not realize the incredible change and transition that we find ourselves in today when it comes to not only artificial intelligence, but all the 270 plus technologies that abide within the ecohabitat that it affects. Whilst at the same time, the only thing within the ecohabitat that affects these 270 technologies beyond artificial intelligence, it's human intelligentsia itself. We must consider now that in this world where generative pre-trained transformers, GPT, Claude 2, Bard, Gemini, is only at adoption rate of about 28 to 29% globally, cross-sector, that the majority of the world still has no idea what ChatGPT is. They have no idea of the type of AI that has arrived, the conversational AI. They have no idea of the concatenative or parametric synthesis of the type of communication that AI could be able to take, and to be able to take our voice and expressions and carry it forward in a different light, in a different language. They have no idea of the type of task-based and narrow AI, and even this pursuit for artificial general intelligence, superintelligence, cosmic intelligence. They have no idea what these steps mean to them and the disruption therein. While we're using what we call generative or regenerative AI, whenever there's something that's regenerative, a regeneration necessitates a degeneration. That means there is a progeneration, a degeneration, and a regeneration. When something is being adopted, something is being discarded. When something is being taken, something is being left behind. But what makes this so different from adopting other technologies, when we go into freemium opportunities of adoption, traction, and scalability, multinational, what makes this so different is that the thing that's being left behind is not just technology, but it's humanity itself. I am an advocate and a fan of AI. I am also an enemy of AI, because I look at AI as a tool, and that humanity must always come first in its adoption and in its intention for what supersedes on the hierarchy step of what's being served, and for what use case is it being served for, and to what intention. Now, more squarely to your question, which is so important, and I hope the audience is with us, because I'd like for you to put in your comments, what does the most important focal point for you and what it is that you do for your profession mean today in this generative world of work? Squarely to your question, Cristina, the biggest focal point is universal basic income, UBI. Seeing that we are going into this phase of regenerative states and within this degenerative state, seeing that we will see many jobs lost but many jobs gained, seeing that so many people's plan B doesn't exist, won't exist, because for the jobs that will exist, there will be such a demand that will be fulfilled because there will be a scarcity. There will be. We're seeing layoffs happen once again this year here in Silicon Valley, and we will continue to see it elsewhere, where platforms such as IBM says, we don't want to hire over. We're holding off on hiring 7,500 people because we're going to use AI tools. Meta, who I enjoy a strong relationship with, got rid of over 10,000 people. They said, well, we hired too many people. That's not only the case. They also said that they're going to be using AI tools, which they're using today. They're creating incredible open source AI. Here's the point. When we talk about universal basic income, we must not be reliant on public sector government to be able to fulfill a necessary sustainable gap that will happen in the world economic platform and landscape. We also have to now hold accountable these multi-trillion-dollar corporations that are introducing these applied sciences to humanity, and to be able to pair with public sector to be able to come up with ways not only for universal basic income deployment, but also to be able to come up with new, fresh career paths that addresses the problems that are happening on this earth. And now that we find many professionals have more time than she or he has ever had before. Not all of them have the tenacity and the drive and the desire to become entrepreneurs. But might new career paths be made to be able to keep a more sustainable apparatus and focus approach towards making this world a more sustainable and even on a monocle level, nicer existence to live on and to live in? With so many things happening in this world and so many things that aren't being addressed on a planetary notion, because I know the Tech Leadership Lab is also based on climate wellness. Might there be opportunities for us to create new career paths that aren't so heavily tech-centric in terms of creating product, but taking that thing which we've already built? Listen, how much innovation do you believe that we can afford to have? Because we're going to out-innovate and disrupt our own selves. We come from a place in Silicon Valley where good technology is superseded by great technology, and great technology is superseded by even better technology. That's what we commonly refer to as the disrupt. And the greatest disruptor that we've had contemporary to our time, seeing that we've become more virtual in the past 45 months than the past 45 years, the greatest disruptor that we've had to our time hasn't been technology, it's been a pandemic. And by way of that, we have become incredibly more virtual. The metaverse has been accelerated. Fiat currencies, crypto assets, real world assets, blockchain usage is at an all-time high and disruption phase. And now all of a sudden, what springs on the scene is artificial intelligence that by all timelines and all so-called hype cycles shouldn't have arrived this soon, yet it has. And the world has once again been caught off guard. When NFTs became a multi-billion-dollar industry overnight, NFTs were not new. As I continue to tell people, as an emergent technologist, humanitarian, none of these technologies are new. They're emerging. And what we believe is so profound today is nothing compared to what's about to come down the pipeline, especially when we look at the intersection of quantum and AI. That will be the game break disruption, even above AGI, which we call artificial general intelligence. And so being that, we should now take the steps today to be able to create a new global workforce of opportunity for people to lead into more sustainable outcomes. And that has everything to do with the New Deal being approached for universal basic income to take care of this planet that we all share and have neglected for some time.
Before I add my points here to what you said, I would just want to acknowledge our amazing community who helped with sharing the new link for the live and being here with us. And please just comment, because this way I can know that you're here with us and you find us. Thank you, Dries, for promulgating the new link, and Danielle and Eric for the kind words. Any kind of comments or questions are welcome. Because of what we face today, probably we won't go live with questions or coming on stage, but we can read everything you're writing in the comment section. And we are truly, truly deeply connected with you, those who are here, because it means you are connected with such topics. And listening to you, Christopher, these are tough topics. Most of the population don't even grasp 1% from what we are talking here. And that's so crucial. I want to address this because you said the word disrupt ourselves. 2 words. How can we disrupt ourselves in a conscious manner, and also to know that this is crucial for us? Because yes, quantum will come, and that will be just absolutely beyond AGI and everything we can just imagine. We cannot even imagine, because the disruption level is so huge that most of the people, I think, will face difficulty in mental health area, because they won't even grasp that they are in a new future, and they will be trapped in the past. So the basic level of the minimum education, and just to align to a minimum level of AI and technology, before moving on, it's so crucial. So what can we do on a global scale to just start disrupt that common knowledge about where our world is today, and what we need to do in a way that in 1 year, because next year will be just like, wow, I'm very curious to see and witness, because this year was a huge shifter, but people don't sense it yet in their daily lives, just a little bit. But the huge shift, it's coming. And I don't want to see too many people disrupted in so abrupt way that they go depressed, suicidal, anxious, because their world just shifts so dramatically they don't even know where to start. And for this, I would just love to connect with what we are doing here with Tech Leadership Lab, the importance of top leadership. How can we make sure as global population and global citizens that we allow and promote and put on top of things the right type of leaders who have the right type of intention by heart? They do the right type of things, and they to be promoted, because they could be the beam people are expecting to connect with our future world that's coming on us all. So just to clarify, my question is about what we do with the most of the population that's facing disruption very soon, and huge, severe disruption, and what we do with shifting the top leadership in a way that they truly do the right type of decision-making processes. They decide what needs to be done today, not after 3 years, and after maybe we will exhaust all fossil fuels on Earth and we can die, or we can go underneath on Earth or on Mars to live. So, yeah.
Listen, I've had the pleasure and distinct pleasure of speaking to audiences for many years around the world, and especially in particular this year, in person and virtually, have traveled to many countries and places and talked to thousands of people on many different topics, whether it's dealing from education, accessibility, safety, privacy, and ethics. Let's set the landscape and the trajectory for what it is that we're really talking about here. We kind of have to go back for a second because we've gone through similar transitions before, because we're talking about disruption. Disruption to humanity is not a new concept. We've gone through the farming revolution. We've gone through the industrial 1 and 2 revolution. But then we came into the technical revolution subsequent to 80s and into the 90s, if you will. But we never stopped to ask ourselves, in the information age of the 90s, what happens when you give the world information? By the rise of the internet came information deployed, unlike information we've never had before, which took us into the tech bubble, because we found out that startups and companies were running technology platforms with industrial age standard business practices, which then led us into a great recession. But from this great recession, subsequent 2007 September, where we began to see the formation of startup culture and the applications renaissance, because we've taken this information age and that has transitioned into applying this information. That's when we start to come up with apps. So we've taken information, we've applied this information, we've created applications, taken it from this abstraction of science, and taken science and applied science to creating product development. Stay with me. And we've gone from this applications renaissance from 2007 autumn to 2019. We've gone through this applications renaissance. And for what has now happened is a proliferation of technologies that abide within the eco-habitat are now beginning to ascend, and they're beginning to merge together. And these technologies are not only merge pairing together on a amorphous scale, they're creating technology formations of what no technologist can define, And no so-called futurist can gauge what that trajectory is, because when these technologies come together, now they're paired with other technologies that have come together, which brings us into true technological convergence. So what am I saying? As we move further into this disruptive phase of technical growth, as we have been for decades, what makes this different is that we're dealing with influential technology that has everything to do with intelligentsia. And when you're dealing with intelligentsia, there's only so many things that you can develop and build before it starts to be able to escape through computational render, before it starts to escape the current systems in which we abide by now in the global theater of work and sustainable living, according to the systems that now abide today on the colloquial front. In other words, where we find ourselves today is that when we're in this degenerative cycle, when we see a downgrade in society being regenerated with the tools that we have now, we are in a transition of a new era and age of business and work. And humanity is having to take a different look and a real strong consideration for what we're even here for in the first place, where we are headed and where we might be going. And this is a transitionary phase of where we're getting ready to find ourselves in, because when we came into this world with the assumption of college and education and to be able to get a career path, that was on scene. But what happens when that's no longer completely afforded to us, and for billions, not millions, billions of people to be able to adopt and to be able to subscribe to the idea that if I follow this path, then I'll find success or sustainable living outcomes. And that is being disrupted itself, because AI and technology now has the capability to usurp that which was available on market and available for humans to be able to adopt, educate themselves on, and subscribe to. So the deal is now broken. A new deal must be made. Not just through universal basic income, but through universal basic compassion. And what we don't want to do is wait till it's too late, because there are some holes that you simply cannot dig yourself out of. And so the solution is one of the things that we put forward is a $300 million human capital fund initiative this summer, that myself and the Impact Innovation Foundation, Neuroimmersive, Exergy, and other platforms said we need to find a way to be able to amplify those startups and those founders that are creating platforms for human betterment. That simple. Because venture capital is not funding these people that are building incredible platforms. Venture capital isn't coming to Tech Leadership Lab giving millions of dollars in investment. Venture capitalists, corporate capitalists, public sector capitalists, they care minimally, and it's a 9 to 5 or a profitable opportunity for them, which is fine. That's what you want for yourself. That's what you think is worth investing in. Platforms that don't lead towards human betterment, there's a consequence to be paid for that. When we continue to have a blind eye and continue to lead with a blind eye to the needs of humans to sustain, you can only build products so long on the backs of others until you cannot. And so when we talk about creating a fund that goes directly, specifically to these startup founders, we not only want to fund them, but to amplify their voices and to be able to tell their story and to be able to share their compassion, to be able to unlock their voices. So with GatherVerse, we've gathered all the world's communities together to help amplify their voices in a democratized and free fashion. And I do believe that the seeds that are being planted today with Tech Leadership Lab, GatherVerse, Your Immersive, and so many other different platforms that are working at this intersection of human betterment, Impact Innovation Foundation, and more, I do believe that the seeds that are being planted today will be much more appreciated sooner rather than later, because this world at this time next year will look dramatically different when it comes to the technical landscape. And people will look back and say, you know what? There were people that actually gave a damn, that cared, when so many of us did not. And typically that's the way it is, because sometimes things don't matter until it comes knocking on our doors.
Yeah, this is such an important message, because basically humanity showed twice that they can take a global agreement for the benefits of humanity. And this happened after 2 disastrous events. And I would love to make sure that we don't need to wait for Hiroshima or Nagasaki, or to have a Holocaust again, to can take the right steps before we destroy ourselves through division and hatred. I would love to ask you, because if we can go a little bit overboard,
Yes,
if that's very appreciated. How would you change short-term thinking to long-term thinking? Because this is one of the things many people who are taking today decisions, and outside of being just psychopathic or other kind of narcissistic tendencies, they don't care about tomorrow and they just want their gains for today. But there are also a couple of okay-ish people and leaders with the right intentions maybe, but they cannot just grasp the truth that we need to connect ourselves with the tomorrow as well, not just today. So how would you shift this short-term thinking to long-term thinking in people?
well, part of it is to be able to support our educators on this earth. They're the front line. If our wellness practitioners and our first responders are the front line to the pandemic, then our educators are also the front line to the pandemic of the threat of the ecosystem of information, misinformation, and disinformation. We as technologists in humanity, humane practitioners, if you will, we need to support our educators to equip him and her of the necessary information that they're going to need to be able to go and to educate their cohorts. And we've done a really bad job of that. We haven't done a good job of educating others to equip them with good information and relevant information to even define what it is that's come upon our heels when it comes to these emerging technologies. We have not. And so the short-term solution is emotional and social learning, equitable balance, with artificial intelligence. We don't have to necessarily look at artificial intelligence as an existential threat. You see, one of the things that technologists will have you do and have you so scared of is thinking that, oh, now that AI is here, it's become an existential threat. Well, okay, in some ways you can justify it being an existential threat, but why is this the existential threat that you want to identify? There are existential threats that have already existed on this planet well before AI showed up. But I've never heard you once talk about those existential threats. Part of the biggest existential threats is humanity itself. The intent of humans, dictators that operate and run large multi-trillion-dollar companies and governments that have stockpiles of nuclear weapons, with the threat of chemical warfare that is at our doorstep. That is an existential threat. That is more of an existential threat than artificial intelligence. So when we start talking about the hierarchy of now we're supposed to suddenly drop everything and say, oh my gosh, artificial intelligence is this existential threat. And what they're saying is, but we have the solution and the tool to be able to prohibit that. I stand in doubt of you. Because once again, your profitable greed has overshadowed this idea of solvency with an alarm threat that you have raised and that you have innovated and created. And through your careless and recklessness of your appetite to disrupt, you have not put in proper and necessary safeguards in place with consideration of safety and privacy and wellness. You have not put ethical consideration, of ethical balance to approach to what it is that you've innovated. And so while you're giving pretty speeches, people are being torn to shreds. And so the short-term solution is to be able to amplify the voices of others, to be able to speak on these things, and to simply not to go and to be rebellious against these things. These things must be. But for me, I would rather talk about more things that are more fitting of the light than the things that are fitting of the dark. The dark already has great representation in this world. But why don't we amplify the voices? So let those that want to stay in the monocle or in the doldrums of disparity to talk about existential threat when it comes to technology, that's fine. But there's a dichotomy side where we could talk about the benefits and the gains of the things that could be done and the things that are being done. And if they were equipped with more opportunity to be able to amplify what they're already doing with social impact, imagine what it is that we can actually have here when it comes to technology at the intersection of humanity.
This is a great message to wrap up today's live event. And I just wrote about this, that we should just shift to the positive mindset and see the world as it should be, a paradise. And someone also commented, because we had super quality comments today from people, and I appreciate you all. And this is something that I'm aiming to do, also by showing that, hey, we don't have too much time. We also need to be in a hurry in our endeavors to create bigger shifts. And you are doing that. It's absolutely amazing to have a fund for $300 million. I think is the first I ever heard for such an endeavor, to get this fund and invest in those startup founders and startups who truly want us to live a better future, be happier, and live on this earth as we should be, together, united with empathy, with kindness. And I am super in for such a mission. And we are moving in that direction as well. So how would you end today's show before I wrap up with a couple of news for our audience and community? What would be your positive message, but also action to do starting today, all of us? What would you want? And also, what would you want people to know about you, and the next steps also for GatherVerse and what you're preparing?
I think it's really simple. It comes at the intersection of human betterment and emerging technologies. I would encourage every single person that's part of Tech Leadership Lab today and part of your community, Cristina, and I'd certainly doff my hat to the work that you're doing the best way that you know how with your colleagues and partners. The most important thing that we must take in consideration when it comes to emerging technologies today is humanity first and humane approaches to how we're entering into this new AI era of work. If we do not have these conversations peer to peer, human to human, through human centricity, if we do not equip ourselves with better information on how to approach the development of these emerging technologies in a humane fashion, then in large part we will suffer the consequences, because the outcomes will not be sustainable in a good sense, but they can end up being sustainable in a bad sense. So for me, my encouragement to everyone today is to support platforms such as Tech Leadership Lab, or not, or build your own. Support platforms such as GatherVerse. We're not begging anyone to support our platforms, whether it's Tech Leadership Lab or GatherVerse. All we're simply doing is we've created platforms to amplify and express what's in our hearts and minds. And then you, as the receiver, will take that as you will. And so with that, the most important focus that we should have one to another when it comes to business, care kindness, compassion, grace, understanding, an ear to listen, a desire for the betterment of each other, and appreciation and thanksgiving in our hearts that we even have such an opportunity as today to be able to gather together, to be able to share, to amplify, and to express, and to really approach this with vulnerability. Thank you for your time that I'm being afforded the opportunity to spend with all of you today.
And I am so grateful for you, Christopher, and everything you're doing, because I truly acknowledge how difficult it is, such a mission where people think, there is someone who will do it for us, because there are not so many people who are putting their lives and efforts ahead for the collective benefit. This is so important. That's why such movements and such people need to be supported, because most of the people are content and happy if they have their family in order, they have a paycheck from paycheck, living style, and they feel that it's just okay-ish. And they don't consider future long-term thinking for their kids and for what is happening. And those of us who are in this endeavor, it's a lifelong mission. It is tough. It is difficult. It's with effort. It's with sacrifices from your family, from your time, from your own finances, from your own benefits. And it needs to be acknowledged, because, also in Tech Leadership Lab, I promote meritocracy. And this is such an important word. And because you need to just see that there are people who are concerned for all of us, and there are people who are just concerned about themselves. And you cannot put them on that same plate if you want this world to be a better place. And we can do it collectively. If we could just, wake up tomorrow morning, it's enough. From now on, I just want to live by these values you just mentioned before. Just take one: empathy. I just want to be kind and empathic with everyone around me.
Right.
That will be my first purpose and skill set, and everything I do in my job and at home.
Right.
Everything would shift, because your mindset will shift in finding solution in how to amplify all of these aspects about community, collectiveness, being together. And we could truly be happy, a happier world where we all benefit. Yeah.
We could benefit so much, Cristina. And here's the deal. There's so many people that talk about change, and then there's those that manifest change.
Yeah. And so I support you in your mission, and I thank you from my part and from my heart for what you're doing, what you will do next year, and we will continue to collaborate and do amazing things together. We just started.
Yes.
We are earlier, but you have so much expertise in front of us, and hopefully we'll have you back in a show for a full hour where everything works smoothly and everything is perfect. I appreciate you so much. Thank you.
Thank you for this gracious invitation. And to your audience, thank you for sharing your comments. They're all well received. And I hope to be able to explore with you further in the future as our communities are sharing together.
Thank you.
Yes.
And a little bit of sneak peek for next week that you might be curious. It will be the last show for this year. Now I will consider if it's video or audio. I don't know. I will receive all of your feedbacks because I have tons of messages waiting for me. And I will see what would be the best option for next week. But we will celebrate. We don't have a topic. It's us. It's on us. We will have giveaways, we will have celebration, and we will have a good positive vibe to end this year the right way with the right type of projection we just discussed with Christopher today for the next year, because it will be a revolutionary year with AI, with technology just like pumping from all over the place, where we can take that, grasp that, and just put it in the benefit of all humanity. And so it's on us to have that, and I am expecting you next week to celebrate together. And then we will have many people just coming on stage, even if it's live or audio. it will be the same format. And this time we will discuss with each other and just have that kind of positive vibe for the end of the year. And if you want to know more, subscribe to the newsletter, Tech Leadership Lab, and also subscribe to the page. You will be updated with everything. And if you want to get in to be part of a community who is building for the future, uniting the right type of leaders, and you want to do things actively inside such a community, then just reach out to us and we will pick up from there. And with that said, thank you for being here, supporting us with your comments and just listening to such an important topic with Christopher. And my last words are, as usual, until the next time. Bye, everyone.